Good evening, everybody. It looks like we have about 50 people on, somewhere between 42 and 50. Uh, the purpose of this meeting was to give a presentation on preliminary results. We wanted to get this out to the public, and when I am done, I'm going to give a little presentation and share my screen here in a minute on preliminary results. And when I am done, I'm going to have Attorney Mindy Bish, who is the managing director of the Keenan Law Firm, and sponsors me to go in to these disasters and with no strings, no touch, and allows me to do whatever I need to do and test in the community to help the public and get the word out. And we will take questions at the end. The chat is open. And with that being said, I am going to start the presentation, and I have saved some very good news on the Rainbow River. I have some very good preliminary news that may change. I've been waiting 20 years for good news like this. So, other than that, we have some concerning news, but we will talk about it all. Okay, I'm going to cover some of you that were on the first Zoom. I'm going to cover you some background. I'm going to set up the background because there can be issues with narratives coming from communities, from EPA, from state agencies, and people trying to undermine what we're trying to do. So I want to set up the validation in the background, kind of the work that I do and things like that. I haven't had there will be a public town hall when the rest of the results are in. And again, like I said, we scheduled this Zoom town hall to get the results we had out as soon as possible. In the last 20 years, I have been to 80 disasters. I haven't had a chance to update this slide with Dunnellon, Florida, with 81, unfortunately, with Dunnellon, Florida. But this PowerPoint will be distributed after this, and these are active links. So you can go in, for those that are interested, you can go into the background. And this was my very first disaster, was my own, which was where I learned about environmental testing and how it can be gamed by responsible parties. And then I set out on a mission after I recovered from my own disaster and went into the BP oil spill as my second. And now, 20 years later, Dunnellon is the 81st. One of the key things that we do here is you have to be on the ground in the community. You have to be on the ground as quickly as possible to understand exactly what the fingerprint of the contamination is, especially at ground zero, which is defined as where the explosion, where the fire is, and so on. And I want to thank Michelle Lester, who originally reached out to me, who lived in the Dunnellon area, and also Matt the welder. And I want to be clear, I welcome anybody running for office, any party, elected official, anybody that ever wants to join me on the ground, especially participate in testing. I am not political at all, and everybody is welcome. It's equal opportunity for all parties. And I really appreciate Matt joining me on the ground and participating and helping with the initial sampling. A little bit of background on me. I'm a whistleblower client of the EPA. I'm an EPA whistleblower client of the Government Accountability Project. For those of you that may not be familiar, they are a whistleblower organization. They've actually represented Edward Snowden. They have also represented 3 Mile Island whistleblowers. For those of you that remember the nuclear power plant meltdown, these are active links where people can go into the background also. And Government Accountability Project, we'll get into this. I have a great team around me. I'm a very small part of an extensive team of, very seasoned and experienced scientists, PhDs, and so on. And the Government Accountability Project and Leslie Pacey reached out to me in East Palestine. And this is an example. We'll get to systemic failure. This is an ex-EPA attorney, Davina Pujara, who sold out and went to Norfolk Southern and subpoenaed me in my driveway with intent to intimidate, harass me. And for those of you that may be listening that know of whistleblowers, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Leslie. You can actually stay anonymous and be protected if you know anything about these railroad ties and what's going on in Dunnellon. But what I call Davina is kind of the poster child for what's wrong and the systemic problems in the country, where we have government agencies, and it's not just the EPA, selling out constituents, selling out the other side, and then working to ultimately undermine communities. It's unacceptable, and we're on a mission to stop it. Also, these are links to other whistleblowers, other interviews, to East Palestine that kind of set things out for background. And I want to say, whether it's East Palestine, Ohio, Conyers, Georgia, Moss Landing, Roseland, Louisiana, and now Dunnellon, or any other chemically impacted community, it's all very similar. Mixtures of chemicals may be different, but the false narratives, the playbooks, and how it works are the same. It's the same problem over and over again. August 18th of 2025, the Government Accountability Project and the team of lawyers I had came out with the surveillance campaign that the EPA did against me and against actually the community in East Palestine. And this goes to show you about the efforts that the PR people and the agencies will go to try to undermine the truth. And this is there was a retired EPA Superfund program official who just recently revealed his identity on the third anniversary of East Palestine. His name is Dr. Kevin Garahan, and he was quoted back when this release came out about the EPA undermining and surveillance of me. And here you will see him. This is February 3rd, 2026. He was interviewed, and this is a link to his official first interview on News Nation with Rich McHugh. That is Dr. Kevin Garahan on the left, Leslie Pacey in the middle. Also, I know that PBS and NPR, I'm in Roseland, Louisiana. I finished 2 town halls here, and I've been doing more testing on the ground. I actually just did an interview with Louisiana PBS, NPR, Christina Jensen. And way back in August 20 of 25, I sat down with Pamela Kirkland of Georgia Public Broadcasting. And there is an extensive 25-minute interview that you might find useful for background. And this goes to what we're talking about in some of the reported systems, health symptoms. This is what from Dr. Kevin Garahan about vapor intrusion, exposure about via inhalation. The simplest way to explain this, you hear the word volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. That's equivalent to gasoline. When it spills, you're filling up your car, you smell it, it disappears in the air rapidly. That's a volatile. A semi-volatile is like diesel, where you spill it, it hangs around on the ground, you can smell it a little bit, hence semi-volatile, goes in the air. And then you have the forever chemicals like the dioxins and what's called PFAS, kind of like irradiation. You can't, kind of like radiation. You can't always see it or smell it, but it will build up in your body and it doesn't go away, hence forever chemicals. Dr. Robert Krotel, who's on this call, and I'm going to have him speak in a little bit. He is my fellow whistleblower client. He came out in East Palestine about how the EPA was intentionally shutting off equipment. The EPA has a special plane that can detect air contamination. They shut off the equipment. As you know, I have an expression, you can't find what you don't look for. And he will be involved in analyzing all the data and testing as it comes in on Dunnellon, Florida. He joined me for the first time on the ground in Roseland, Louisiana. And want to talk about, you saw, Davina Pajaro, the ex-EPA attorney that sold out to Norfolk Southern and helps try to cover up these contamination events now. There's systemic failure from the EPA, government agencies, state and local, federal elected officials, state elected officials, certain academic institutions, certain nonprofits, class action attorneys, and others. But I have never been more positive about the future. Why is that? If you can see on Facebook, all these communities are connecting, East Palestine, Roseland. You are not alone in Dunnellon. You're not alone in Moss Landing, California. And it's becoming one gigantic community with millions of people coming together. And that's how we're going to create the systemic and positive change once and for all. Now, I want to get into now the chemically impacted communities. 5 key points. You can't find what you don't look for. You got to have background or controls. We'll talk about that. That would be upstream in Dunnellon, what is called KP whole, and I'll be talking about more of that in a little bit. Every human body burden is different. If you're immunocompromised, if you're on chemotherapy, if you're pregnant, you're going to react differently. Not everyone is going to get sick. Some people are going to get very sick. Some people, unfortunately, may get cancer. Yeah, everyone reacts differently. Very important thing to also remember is single chemical exposure is different than multiple chemical exposure. You have already seen in Dunnellon the nothing to see here based on a singular exposure to a singular chemical. What they may not be telling you and admitting is there are no standards for mixtures of chemicals. And there were clearly mixtures of chemicals with these railroad ties burning. And then there's something called synergistic toxicity, where you may have two compounds like arsenic and benzene. You may be under the singular exposure threshold for each of them, but then when they combine, even in small quantities, they can have an incredible toxic effect on your health. And here's some background for those of you that are interested. This was a East Palestine Live Cuomo News Nation Town Hall, where Chris Cuomo went on the ground with me. We tested in East Palestine, and we talk about, in this 6-minute segment, we talk about mixtures of chemicals and exposure. That's a very relevant issue to Dunnellon in all chemically impacted communities. Again, I say over and over again, you can't find what you don't look for. So here's where we have on February 5th, 2026. The public relations narrative has began. Nothing to see here. And this is a GHD, whether it's GHD or Arcadis, they are paid by CSX. They are not independent testers. They take their orders from the responsible party. Said differently, that's like letting the murderer or the rapist do the DNA testing in a trial. It would never happen in any other situation. And the air quality testing, CSX contracted with the independent consultant. Again, GHD was not independent. They take their orders from CSX, and they tested for a variety of these volatile compounds. And Robert, are you available to speak if I unmute you here?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hey, Robert. This is
Okay.
Dr. Robert
Very
Fertile,
good.
and he is a very smart. He analyzes all my testing along with the rest of the science team. I know you have some very specific things to say to the community of Dunnellon about what you've seen.
Well, thank you very much, Scott. I'm very glad to join you. Recently, I'm a whistleblower too on the efforts in East Palestine trying to correct the record on the mismanagement of chemical vapor detection from something called the Aspect aircraft in East Palestine. More recently, I've been looking at this data collected down there in Florida, and this is I have about 35 years experience. I'm a PhD chemist and a scientist. I worked in Department of Defense and various national government institutions. So I have about 100 papers in the open literature on chemical detection. That's my background. So I've been looking at this data that was collected, and it was collected, the information that was presented in that press release sort of gives you an indication that there was a complete analysis done of the site. In fact, what was actually done was entry-level uh, detection systems called PIDs. Um, they're used for generally for screening. They're not specific on the specific compound that is actually used to determine the level of health threat. Uh, so all these systems did that they used in Florida uh, categorized all of the chemical compounds in one detection element called VOCs. They did not split any of the compounds out. Some of them are toxic, some of them are less toxic. They did not split any of those compounds out to individual compounds. Some of those compounds have different responsivities for that PID detector. So Scott, I just say that there was very minimal detection analysis, detection capabilities that were used. They use the entry level systems, and I don't think that you can make a broad assessment that the public's health was not harmed.
Thank you very much, Robert. And I've got to send later to you. I literally just got these results in the last 48 hours and saw some surprising things in the soot and ash about the VOCs present when we tested it there. So be very interested in the analysis and
Some of
hopefully,
the so-
hope,
some of the VOCs will be in solid form, so you'll detect it. But some of the VOCs are probably vapors, and those were obviously not captured by this equipment.
well, that's good. And hopefully, Robert, you'll be able to join me when we announce the public town hall and we get all the information. So thank
That
you.
would be great.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to screen share now. Uh, Going back to this, and then so you see the public relation narrative here is basically nothing to see here. And again, you can't find what you don't look for. If you don't test for these volatile chemicals or what's going into the air, what's like the gasoline and evaporating, you can't find them. And if you don't test for dioxins, you can't find dioxins. Now, the EPA has a health screening threshold on dioxins of 4.8 for soil. And this is the ash and the soot that we tested at ground zero on February 5th. And dioxins are measured in an index, so 32.6. So we know at ground zero, and the importance of this soot and ash is we wanted to get a baseline fingerprint and see what was being deposited on your roofs, in your yards, on your trees, and what was burning. And not to get into too much detail, but you can see on this 23878 TCDD, that's a specific dioxin that's Agent Orange. That sets off bells and whistles everywhere. That was present. And the other most toxic dioxin is 12378 PECDD, and that was also present. The volatile testing, 1,2-dichloroethane, 2-butanone, acetone. And I want to make it clear in these early stages, when people start reporting health symptoms, we know there are no standards for mixtures. So this is not about at these early stages. It's about what chemicals were present so we can let you know in the community that may be having symptoms that you didn't have before this railroad tie fire, so you know the chemicals you may have been exposed to, so you can seek the medical attention at your discretion for yourself, for your family. And benzene in the ash and soot, and isopropyl benzene and methyl acetate. And Robert, I can follow up with you later. I was a little surprised to see benzene in the ash and soot. I really don't see that across many of these disasters.
There has to be a large concentration of that present to sit in the ashes.
Yeah. And like I said to everybody, this is all preliminary, subject to further, review and analysis, and we have more testing. But we felt a duty to the public to call this Zoom call and get this information out to you as soon as we had it. And here are the semi-volatiles. Again, they go in the air, they hang around like a diesel spill, 1,1 biphenyl and methylnaphthalene, and 3 and 4 methylphenol. And Robert, please just jump in and interrupt me if you want to add any comments as I go through this.
Well, these are typical compounds that you would find in railroad tie burning, all very explainable.
And something that struck me in this ash and soot, and again, it's about all these chemicals that were present, and then we get in the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and a lot of these chemicals we're finding present are consistent with in from what toxicologists tell me can cause respiratory issues, brain fog, dizziness, nosebleeds, a whole host of issues. And Robert, I was also surprised to see anthracene at 110,000 parts per billion in the soot and ash.
That's about the highest I've ever seen in what, 30 years experience of that chemical compound at a emergency response site.
So for those in you and Dunnellon and everybody, you're seeing Robert and I have a live discussion that we haven't even had a chance to discuss this. That's how quickly we wanted to get this out to the public. So there will be a lot of follow up and there will be a lot more details at the public town hall. And then we have fluoranthene, phenanthrene, phenol, and pyrene, and you would expect to see those too. And, Robert, I don't know if you want to comment. The fluoranthene was 57,000 parts per billion.
Huge. That's off the scales, so to speak.
And then we went over to a pine tree. And again, I really appreciate, and I want to reemphasize Matt the welder, whoever I would love to see everybody running for every office in the area, along with city council, even along with your vice mayor, or they're all welcome to join me anytime, any place to test on the ground. Because the more people we can get involved, especially people that want to run for office or in office, that's the best thing we can do to help the community. So, and here you see this is important because this pine tree that burned down, we wanted to see what was going up in the air. And this dioxin TEQ again was 55.7 and the EPA, you know, health screening threshold is 4.8. And there you have here the two most toxic specific dioxin compounds, TCDD and PECD. You see that heavily present. And Robert, I have not seen, TCDD is approaching 10, but the PECDD at 31 is a little bit concerning because we know this was going up in the air and
Yes.
being deposited. And the pine tree too that we tested. So we had, and I haven't seen this before, Robert, the butyl methacrylate
Methacrylate, yeah, butyl methacrylate.
railroad tie, 96,000 parts per billion, and isopropyl benzene. You want to comment on those?
Well, I'm floored. I've never seen those high levels ever before of butyl methacrylate. Very toxic.
Well, and then this is what we emphasize too about the mixtures, Robert. So if this was up in the air and, people were breathing it and it was being deposited everywhere, and then we got dioxin. So we definitely have a whole host of mixtures here that are concerning.
Yes.
The wood duct drive sampling, I am still awaiting the test results. We expect to have those in. When we get those in, we will schedule a public in-person town hall. So more to follow on that. And for those of you, most of the people on Dunnellon, wood duck is, I believe, borders the Blue Cove and the residential community. And when I was in there testing, it looked like a scene of the upside down from Stranger Things with all the ash and the burned, forest. Also, now I want to get to the good news. I'm almost done. So the Rainbow River. I played this before. This Rainbow River, I haven't seen anything like this in the continental United States since Bermuda, how clear it is. And this is a video that I made that day when I first was there. And this is KP Hole. This is going to become very important because this is and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. This is the first time a responsible party, CSX, and their quote independent contractor that's not so independent, they used KPO Hole as background, the same as I did. And that means a place upstream where the wind didn't take anything that wasn't impacted.
Dunnellon, Florida, KP Hole, Rainbow River. We are upstream from the railroad tie fire, and we're going to get background samples. I have never been here before. I have never seen clear water like this since I've been in Bermuda. Look at this is unbelievable. Again, with Michelle Lester and Matt the welder, I feel like I'm in Bermuda right now. This is the most beautiful, pristine, clear river that I have ever seen. It's so unfortunate that there's this fire downstream, but it's unbelievable. So we're going to get,
look at the size of that one. See it?
wow, we're going to get baseline background samples here, and then we're going to go downstream of where the railroad tie fire was and see and if there are any cancer-causing toxic chemicals, including but not limited to dioxins, SVOCs, PAHs, metals, and a whole host of other chemicals.
So here's the good news. The KP Hole Rainbow River background upstream from the site and downstream, we tested outside of Swampies, and you'll see that Matt the welder and Michelle Lester, and I really thank them. I'm still recovering from a little bit of a leg injury, so it doesn't bend, and I would have ended up probably swimming in that river if I didn't have their help. And this is something, and Robert, this is amazing. You know, first of all, KP Hole, we have agreement between me and the responsible party on the background. That's a big deal. That's never happened before. You can call it background or control. That's a baseline of what an area that's not impacted, that's close to ground zero would be. So this is going to be important down the road because you're going to hear from the other side, ubiquitous in the environment, and it's already contaminated. Well, that's not the case here. And what you're looking at right here is something I've been waiting to see in all these disasters. Not only was the soil, and Robert, the soil, the dioxin TEQ was fractional, it was under 1, which means it's basically non-existent. But here is the fingerprint in the dioxins side by side. So with the TEQ both being the same, you know, 1.8, 1.6, virtually the same. But look at this fingerprint. Look at the non-detects. You got the two most toxic dioxins non-detect. And this, I'm very pleased to be able to end this with some positive news. There's some things we got to work through, but this is very positive at this point. And again, whether it's positive or concerning negative news, these are all preliminary results subject to further review and analysis. We can't make final conclusions because we have to keep, analyzing things and wait for more testing. But there you have it, where upstream and downstream, literally the fingerprint matches. And importance of evidence preservation. In light of the fingerprint we now have close to ground zero, whether it's the soot and ash or the results on the pine tree, and you may have trees in your yard that all of a sudden are dying and that aren't growing. Those can be tested. And this is a picture of a house at Wood Duck right outside where I was testing in the woods and the soil, and those are testing results. So if you see this along your house, do what you can. You can reach out. I can help you. If you want to reach out to me, you need to preserve evidence. If you have soot and ash, if you have, Ziploc bags, glass mason jars, and at Jim Peterson, I did send coolers down with official certified lab containers, and I can guide people through that. You can collect samples. You can preserve them in your refrigerator. It's all about evidence preservation right now. So I think you guys also have had some very, very good reporting with Jennifer Murda, some of the best reporting I've seen, where she's laying out in details about what surely appears to be the gaming of test results, incomplete testing results. And this ties in, this is another way of saying, this is one of my fellow whistleblower experts and somebody I work with, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That's another way of saying you can't find what you don't look for. So if they're not looking for dioxins, that's absence of evidence. That doesn't mean the dioxins aren't there. We just prove that they are. And I'm going to end with this and then turn it over to Mindy. Two of the many reasons why I do this, that is my, right as of now, one and only first granddaughter, and that is my son-in-law, that is a first line firefighter paramedic. And I have seen in East Palestine the results of firefighters from that were not protected properly, getting sick in their gear. So we very much need to protect the people that are running into danger, protecting our lives. They need better protection. And with that being said, I am going to turn it over to Mindy, and then we can open it up for questions. And Mindy, you're on, so if you want to go and unmute, the floor is yours.
All right, now I can unmute. I'm going to give you some don't go away because I'm going to give you some advice on how to keep yourself safe. Um, there's a couple of things that I do want to tell you. Many of you don't know. So I'm Mindy Bish, and I wear two hats. I wear the hat of the attorney at the Keenan Law Firm. We are located right now in the panhandle of Florida, so I'm about 6 hours away from you. The reason we had to do this on a Zoom call is because I had a mishap with a ramp that takes my elderly dog up on my bed, and as a result, I have two fractured ribs that compressed a lung, and so I've been told I can't travel. Otherwise, I assure you, I would be there in person and we would be doing this live. But I physically can't, and so we didn't want the information to be delayed based on the fact that I could not be there live. So I wear the hat of the attorney, the managing partner of the Keenan Law Firm, Melinda Young, who you also see is barred in Florida, and she works closely with me. She's the smarter one of the two of us, and you will see a lot of her too. So we handle that, and that part of me is here to tell you, do not involve yourself in a class action lawsuit. Class action lawsuits have already been filed. In this case, at least one has already been filed. And I represent the people who have been harmed by class action lawsuits in East Palestine. And I have seen firsthand, and I have done the research, and East Palestine was just the pinnacle of what class action attorneys have become, starting way back before BP. In fact, they started way back in Hickman. It's the part of the movie that Aaron Brockovich never told you about, to be perfectly frank with you. And that is that class action attorneys are basically responsible for allowing wrongdoers to continue to do wrongdoing because they can pay class action plaintiff attorneys a whole lot of money to sell all of you out and do nothing for you and settle their cases. And you have to demand more. You have to demand more. Their goal is to get you to settle your case fast. And the reason why is if you are going to get sick, it is going to take normally years, 1 to 2 years, if not more than that, for whatever the effects of what you've been exposed to rear their ugly face. So what CSX wants to do is to find a bunch of greedy lawyers who are going to convince you are not going to get sick and get you to take pittance. And that way, when you get sick later on, you won't have any remedy whatsoever. And then you can bankrupt yourselves trying to treat your cancers. And if you don't believe me, You can ask the people of East Palestine. The wife who got $8,000 in a check 3 days after her husband died of lung cancer. The lung cancer they were told was never going to happen because nothing bad happened in East Palestine. Or the two men who now have male breast cancer. Something so rare, and they live a mile apart from one another. Or the 24-year-old with thyroid cancer. And I get calls probably every other month right now with somebody new who has cancer in East Palestine. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to any of you. Because the truth of the matter is, we don't know what's going to happen to any of you. So you don't have to hire the Keenan Law Firm. That's not why I'm here. If you have a local attorney who you trust, because the local attorneys in East Palestine, you know what they did? They signed up people who trusted them, and then they turned them all over to the class action in the end. So find, if you have an attorney that you trust who won't do that, hire them. I don't care. But do not find yourself in the grips of a class action attorney who does not understand how to help you if you start to get sick, how to document that, how to get medical monitoring through your own doctor, who doesn't talk to you about what's going on. Because the truth is, nothing fast is going to happen, guys. Class action's already filed. They already ran to the courthouse before they even got a test result on the property and filed their class action. What do they know? They know nothing. It's like going to war before you make your plans. It's silly. They know all they were worried about was being the first one to file. The reason why? In East Palestine, the lawyers, they had to pay up almost $500,000 apiece to be on the steering committee for the plaintiff class action. Imagine that. They had to pay up almost $500,000 so they could be on the steering committee. And 7 different firms ponied up $500,000 to be on the steering committee. You know why? Because they got their share of $162 million in attorney fees. So you want to be the first one there. You want to sign up the most people so that you can get your share of those attorney fees. And that's what it's about. Don't fall for it. Don't sign up for it. Don't do it. So that's the attorney hat. We also have a nonprofit called Seeds for the Future. That's why you're seeing Scott. We understand that you can trust no one to tell you the truth about what you've been exposed to. So we send Scott out after every single disaster. What Scott didn't tell you was, yes, he got the Facebook posts, but he also got a phone call from me. I think he had just gotten back from Roseland and he had been gone for a couple of weeks. And he had just landed back in his house. I don't think he was home for more than a couple of days. And I think it was over your birthday, even. And I called him up and I said, there's this fire of these railroad ties. Doesn't look really good to me. I think you need to go test. And he said, my phone's been blowing up with it too. Let me take a look at it. And I think it was a Friday. And I think by Monday morning, he was on a flight out to you guys to come and test. Because that's what Seeds of the Future does. It knows that we got to get out there. We got to test for you so that you know what you're being exposed to. And so Scott will go out. He will continue to do testing, not at every one of your homes. He will test in quadrants until we are sure that we know in every quadrant, meaning a geographical area, what the exposure is and how far it goes out. Once everything's done in the quadrants, then Scott will pull back and he will start to do what's needed for the clients of the Keenan Law Firm. Because at that point, what we are doing is we know that we have now fully informed you of what you've been exposed to, and we have done that public service to make sure that we get through the BS that you are being given. So here's some practical advice, and Karen and I talked about this already. One, if you're going to sell your house, don't test. You have to disclose your testing if you sell your house. Remember that. You don't want to know if you're going to sell your house. Number two, what are some of the practical things you can do? It's time to have indoor shoes and outdoor shoes. I know it sounds silly. We know outdoors is contaminated. We know that from Scott's testing. So it is time that you don't wear the shoes that you are wearing outside, inside your home. They need to stay outside your home. The bottoms of those shoes are bringing contamination inside your house. It's not a lot, but it's a start. So don't wear those shoes in. Whether you now are just in socks or whether you have a pair of slippers by the door, and don't wear your indoor shoes outside. If you're like me, every once in a while I have slippers on and I want to go check my mailbox. No, no, no. I got to put on my outdoor shoes to go do that. So no, you have indoor shoes, you have outdoor shoes. If you haven't already done it, you need to change your air filters in your house. Now, when you change your air filters, long sleeve shirts, long sleeve pants, one of those pesky little masks we all hated that got pushed upon us during COVID, hats, gloves. Trash bag goes up there with you, and you basically slide that puppy out, you put it in a trash can, you tie that thing up, and you get it out of your house. You put it by the side of your house if you want it tested, and whatever attorney you hire, they should take possession of those filters if you haven't already changed it. Don't forget the filters in your car. Most cars have filters for the air conditioning units in their cars. Make sure that your filters in your cars have been cleaned and changed so that you're not using filters that have contamination in it and they're pumping air into your car. You want air filters, really high quality air filters for inside your home. The best you can find. And put them in the different rooms, the kinds that can sense when they're sensing contamination. Do not, this is a good place to spend the money it takes to buy the good quality air filters for the different rooms in your house. So you want to make sure that you get those. There are ways to detox your body if you feel like, if you have brain fog, if you're feeling like you've been exposed, there are ways that we can hook you up with the other people who have found baths and vitamins that you can take that naturally detox your body and help flush the toxins out. Caution notes. If you have young children, if they start to get sick and you start to note successive strep throats, danger sign. So some of us may have children who couldn't be on this call that have children make sure you tell them this. If they've been around where there is contamination and your children or your grandchildren, you hear, God, they got strep throat again. They just can't seem to get over it. Danger sign. That's a danger sign when it comes to toxic exposure in children. For yourself or anyone else, if you've been exposed to toxins and you notice in yourself, in your children, in your spouse, that they seem to be, their mood has suddenly changed. They seem to be more sullen, a little more depressed, a little less engaged in life. Could be slow. If you notice that, that is a danger sign of toxic exposure. It means toxic exposure, let me put it this way to you. If you are someone whose body has a difficult time flushing out toxins, it can almost act like a TBI, like a traumatic brain injury. So you can get that personality change. We have had people who tried to commit suicide because they got so sad and depressed, and really all they needed was to flush out the toxins that were in their brain. And once they did, they felt better. We have had teenagers and young adolescents who were planning their suicide date, and we needed to get them care. It exists out there. We know where to send you to get it. Do not be shy. There are doctors who help, who specialize in this care because it is a known threat. So if you see that in your loved ones, in the people around you, the woman who tried to commit suicide, I think she was in her 60s. She was not young. So this is not just young, but it can be young. So pay attention to each other. Pay attention to how you're feeling. You have now, whether you like it or not, you've been toxically exposed. What does that mean? We don't miss cancer screenings anymore. Those lovely for you younger women who actually still get these, this means gynecology appointments every year. We get our cancer screenings every year. For those of us who are beyond that, we get mammograms. Men, prostate cancer means cancer screenings become an absolute necessity and part of your life. What we know is toxic exposure. If you get cancer, they tend to be faster growing, odd kinds of cancers. And so you want to catch them early. The best way to do that is just do your cancer screenings. And then the last point that I want to make is you are your best advocate for your health care. Medical monitoring only means you go to the doctor. You document if anything is wrong in your medical records. You continue to do that diligently. You make sure that if you have an issue, it's documented in your medical records. If you believe you need blood tests, you get them and they're documented in your medical records. That is all you can do right now. You may get a test that says you have heavy metals in your body. Doesn't matter unless it makes you sick. And it may not make you sick today, but it may make you sick 2 years from today. So we go back to the blood test that you got, and that's evidence. If you don't feel well, you go to the doctor. You have been toxically exposed. If what they tell you is not helping, you become insistent. You do not allow anyone to blow you off. We have seen rare anal cancers. We have seen things that doctors are like, God, I've never seen that before. We've seen skin cancers from people who have no history of skin cancer and don't even really go outside. So be careful with your skin. We live in Florida. You've been exposed. The last thing that I will tell you is if you're not feeling well, just get a wall calendar, regular plain old wall calendar. And if you have symptoms, all you have to do on that wall calendar is simply mark in the box for a day, didn't feel well today, runny nose, itchy skin, headache. That's all you have to do. And put it in the box. And just keep a wall calendar. That's all. And that way, you will have something you can go back to later on that tells you how you feel. Lastly, and this is last, and I promise I'll stop talking. You can try and make a homeowner's claim. You're laughing, John. I mean, I try. I remember that I haven't said this yet. You can try to make a homeowner's claim. If you had ash and soot on your house, it's fairly easy to do so. We do have people who will help you make those claims. Part of what we try to argue is, yeah, you can clean up the toxins from inside the house today, but the minute I walk outside and walk back in, it'll be toxic again. Remember, if you've had toxins on your roof, I have a metal roof on my house, on the panhandle. I don't know if that stuff got in there, how easily it would come out. So we do have people who, from my office at least, that can, help you with walk you through property claims and fight for you to get what you're entitled to. If that is something you need, you certainly can try it on your own. But don't forget, if you have insurance and that's something, an avenue that you want to proceed down, that's available to you. But again, I've talked to people who say, I want to sell my house. You have to walk through what are you going to do? Um, I will tell you that Seeds of the Future is working on some solutions on how to leach these chemicals out of the ground, some more permanent solutions. We do have the funding. That's Caitlin, who you see on screen. That's part of her responsibility. We do not want to cede property every time a wrongdoer poisons the land. Where will our grandchildren? I mean, I'm 66, so I have grandchildren. Like, where will our grandchildren go? Where will their children go if we have to give away property? John has reminded me, animals, pets, livestock. Remember that outside is toxic. You let your dogs outside for too long, they'll develop cancer. Your animals outside too long, they'll develop cancer. They will be the first. If you have livestock, which I don't think this area there would be much livestock, but if you do, then you should contact us if something happens, but take care of your pets. Cattle nearby, if you know anyone with the cattle, by the way, we have labs set up. If there are any issues with the cattle, we are already set up with doctors who we know what to do in order to test those animals to see if if they have all of this nasty stuff in them. So, anyways,
Wendy, about gardens. Don't eat from your garden if anybody has gardens nearby.
oh, no gardening. And by the way, you guys, do not mow your lawns. Do not mow your lawns. If you want to mow your lawns, you can mow your lawns, but you have to wear PPE to go out there and mow your lawns. I'm talking about long sleeve shirts, gloves, masks, boots. Do not go out there in shorts and flip-flops and mow your lawns. It's toxic out there. We had a gentleman who wanted to mow his lawn, and he did. And he actually, in East Palestine, he wasn't even there during any of it. He was in Florida because he was a snowbird. He was down by all of you. And he came back. So the event happened in February. He didn't even come back until April. And then you know what he did? He got on his lawnmower because he had large property and he mowed his lawns. And he died. Don't mow your lawns. It's contaminated. If you're going to do it, get up at 4 in the morning before it's too hot, before it's too, well, it's going to be humid at 4 in the morning anyways, but where you can stand to put on long sleeve pants, long sleeve shirts, long pants and gloves and mow it then. But remember you're mowing contaminated and don't fish. Or if you're going to fish, don't eat it. So, Scott, Rex wants to know, is there a radius from the fire upwind that could be considered safe?
There probably is, but we don't know enough right now to know what that radius is. And I also just saw in the chat, Dave, you make a very good point. GHD, like a company called CTEH, they are hired to work for the contractor to game the testing and say nothing to hear there. So I'm not surprised the way there's specific protocols to engineer what I call a false non-detect. That's what you're describing. Would any other questions or anybody want their hand up? Anybody want to say anything? We have some more time.
It says, Mary is saying we work at the community garden with the Boys and Girls Club, and the kids play outside each day. Not good. That's all I can tell you is not good. Right, Scott?
Yeah,
Not
Mary,
good.
this is why Karen and Jim Peterson, we may want to organize a separate Zoom call or a conference call because I know the sample kits arrived. I can help you preserve that until I get back there. But I would think that kid's playground, that might be one of the priority points where we want to collect something.
The can we unmute Melinda, Scott?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I gotta
So,
find her.
Melinda, they're asking about statute of limitations if they were to get sick. In Florida, does it go date of discovery of the illness? You're unmuted now. I can't hear you, Melinda. Are you not connected to you have your iPods in, so.
She should be
Can you
unmuted.
hear me now?
I can hear
Yes.
you now. All righty.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, Florida does have a discovery provision within its statute of limitations, but it's that's always a difficult thing. I mean, it would be 2 years, but certainly if 2 years from the date of the fire on the statute of limitations. But if you don't have any reason to believe that you're sick from it, it could be extended to when you discover that you are.
Yeah, but if you have like a runny nose now, if you're having headaches now, if you're having anything now, that statute is triggered. And one of the things that you please know is that experienced attorneys, like the Keenan Law Firm, we understand that we have some clients who don't have cancer and who may get cancer. And so part of what we do in our lawsuits is we account for that in what we're asking from the jury. In other words, we're not only asking for damages for what is, but we are asking that the court provide a medical monitoring system, that the toxicologist list the potential illnesses that come from all of this, and that there is a mechanism that should anyone develop these particular kinds of diseases, that they be provided all of the medical care that is necessary in order to treat those medicals. Because we all know one cancer diagnosis will eat up your entire, you'll be broke right now. And we can't let that happen. The rain, yes, the rain will spread the contaminants. Correct, Scott?
Correct.
The grid testing, I know that Scott did some grid testing when you were there, correct?
Yeah, yeah, we're at very early stages at this point, and I'm waiting for some more analysis to come back, and then we'll reevaluate, and we will be doing some more testing. We just don't know
Correct,
where.
correct. And so weather patterns and things like that, the problem is the weather makes it worse, not better. And it spreads it further, and it could affect the river because
Um,
it's going. Go ahead,
oh,
Scott.
I'm just saying, Tina says she's looking to talk to Melinda since the last meeting. I'm just sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Uh, Tina's looking to talk to the Keenan Law Firm.
All right. So Tina, my cell phone number, are you ready? And for anyone who wants it, here's my cell phone number. The only thing that I ask you to do is when you leave me a message, tell me who you are, please. Otherwise, I don't know. And also know that I have two broken ribs, so I'm a little slower right now than I usually am. I sleep in a little later. I hurt a little more in the morning, so it takes me a little bit to get going. So my cell phone number, and I return calls 7 days a week. So my cell phone number is 213-392-3385. And you can call me because I put my phone on silent at night. So don't worry about waking me up. You can call me, you can leave me a message, you can text message me, and I will always get back to you. If I can't get back to you the same day, I usually text you and say, "Hey, can I call you tomorrow?" But I will always, always, always get back to you. Just know I'm a little slower right now. That's all. I usually get back same day. Right now, sometimes it's the next day. That's all. We got a message from someone. Uh, Pregnant daughter is visiting, kayak in the river. No, no, no. That would be my answer.
Yeah, it's not worth the risk, even though preliminary it looks like good news. We don't know. But Rex, you're making a lot of good points and asking a lot of good questions, Rex, because it has rained a lot since I've been there, and we don't know the extent of the spread. And to answer your other question, I did I did test the CSX property because I got in and out quickly. I probably won't be able to get back on, but I understand that one of your elected officials said I was trespassing, but there were no trespassing signs.
Oh well. And as far as I know, all of you could get on and off that property as much as you wanted to too. So I don't know how they're going to say that I mean, we didn't break through any gates or anything. It was just wide open. Um, 5 miles north is where they tested and it was fine. I understand that. Um, and I would assume even with the rain, it would go down and not up. I would probably go further up than that, Susan. I would I would go further, and I will be honest. Rex would like to be unmuted. Oh, you live 5 miles up. Is that what you're saying, Susan? The answer is we cannot, with the wind. See, the problem is we tested in those first days. Wind, rain, all of that moves contamination. So I cannot answer that question to you in a way that's definitive. Can you, Scott?
Oh, and I want to emphasize that we've never quite done this before. We called this early stage Zoom meeting because of the contaminants that we saw come in. So we'll be able to address a lot more when we do have the public town hall, and we have more test results and we get more information. Rex, I unmuted you, I think.
You did. You're unmuted, Rex, but we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay.
We can, but now you're echoing.
Okay. Give me a second. Okay, how's that?
Better. Can't hear you now. I think you're on your head.
Well, we're waiting for Rex Kelly. Yes. Unfortunately, you asked if we were better off with the EPA or FDEP. We live with such systemic failure right now. They're all what we call captured agencies. They're under the influence of CSX. So you cannot rely on them at all, unfortunately. Oh, Rex, we can't hear you. Oh, you got to unmute. Unmute. You somehow muted again.
No, he's not unmuted. He just
Okay,
between his
give me a-
headphone.
Okay, let me do this. Okay, how am I now?
Better. There, we can hear you.
Okay. All right, I brought up at the meeting the other night that we should start immediate testing. I ran into a lot of objections that it was private property, it would be expensive, and that just a lot of objections. We agreed to table it till we got more information on the testing. According to Bill White, the Sierra Club has agreed to pay for the testing for free. What should we look for in the testing?
You should definitely look for dioxins, and you should look for what's called semi-volatile organic compounds. And, we've been on this for a while, and you can reach out to me offline directly, and I'm happy to follow up with you, Rex.
All right.
Yeah, and we will also work with the people that come in and share our testing information and test with them.
That's great
Okay.
news on the Sierra Club. I worked with them a long time ago in Mayflower, Arkansas in 2013. And if as we do some more testing too, to be efficient, we happy to get on a call with them, Rex, up to however I can help, I will assist.
Yeah, because another council member brought up the fact that Arcadius is doing some of the testing and they're a big company and they're not going to risk everything. But one thing I consistently heard said was FDEP is going to test for what their protocols are. And what I read out of that is they're not testing for anything else that might be there.
Okay,
So is that a problem?
let me tell you about Arcadis. Don't laugh, Scott.
Sorry,
Okay?
I got to mute. I'm muting.
Just mute. Okay? You want to know who the number one shareholder of Arcadis is?
What's that?
BlackRock and Vanguard. The same people who own Norfolk Southern. Arcadis single-handedly, here, I gotta mute you because otherwise we're gonna go ahead and mute, and then I'll do my little rant. Arcadis single-handedly is responsible. They have blood on their hands in East Palestine. We can absolutely prove how they fudged all the tests in East Palestine in order to create a record that there was nothing wrong with any of the ground and that nobody could possibly get sick as a result of 5 train cars burning vinyl chloride over 3 days. If Arcadis comes in and does the testing, you people will die as a result of what they bring in. They won't risk their reputation as being the go-to company for every corporation on the face of the planet in order to save just a small group of people. They will let you all die. So that is my viewpoint on Arcadis. And if you look, they were in East Palestine, Moss Landing, they've hung around Roseland, they've been around Conyers, and there's a reason they get called to all those places. Okay, Scott, you can unmute now.
Okay, yeah, I have no comment on Arcadis. Good, we don't have enough time. Kelly S., another question. Well, the EPA has refused to get involved, to the best of my knowledge, and it's good written. They're not going to be helpful anyway. But
They don't do any testing. The
yeah,
EPA does no testing. When you look at the EPA website and you look at and they publish testing results for East Palestine or Roseland or Moss Landing, those are not their test results. They did no testing. The EPA simply goes, and what they do is they take the testing results that are provided to them by the Arcadis of the world, by all of these other outside contractors that are hired by the wrongdoers. Those people give the testing to the EPA. The EPA sanitizes it, cleans it all up, and then they publish it on their website so that you all will believe that that's actually EPA testing. And in the meantime, they have done no testing of their own. The EPA doesn't test. They delegate it to the contractors hired by the bad guys. And they say, well, you go out and you do this, 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 and this. And then that company comes back and goes, oh, yeah, we did this, 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 and this. And then the EPA publishes it. In the meantime, we have sources from the very people in East Palestine who watched Arcadis go take soil samples and dig down too far. Because if you dig down too far, you can take the soil sample and you can dilute it so it'll come back and show really nothing, no big deal. We have people who will tell you that they went into their homes to do air sampling, and when it showed an air sampling issue, they opened all the doors and all the windows. They waited about 5 minutes. They stood in their door frame and went, see, no problem now. Because they thought those people were too stupid to actually know what was going on. So the live town hall is going to be scheduled as soon as Scott tells me that he has all the rest of the results. I'm about probably 2 weeks away from my timetable for traveling. It's not anybody else's, but it's mine because I'm not sitting here for more than 2 weeks. So within that time frame, we will schedule something and we will come down because I'll drive if I have to. You're not that far away from me. You're about a 6-hour drive. But yeah, and then we will come down. We will probably ask your assistance on letting us know where the best place to go that's centralized for anyone who wants to come. We would like to be able to get all of the different communities to feel comfortable to come to hear the message, because it's not just Dunnellon that is poisoned, it's also the others. We do know that the some of the lower income areas are the ripest for being taken advantage of by class action attorneys, because that's where they go. And we really, so many of the BP um, lawsuits that happened along the Gulf Coast, even in Florida, where those people got really sick and they lost in court. Every single one of them. BP won every single one of them. And really, the person we have to thank for all of it is Scott. If it wasn't for my meeting Scott and our relationship to get him in there early, we would be stuck with the bad guy testing. And it is absolutely the thing that makes all the difference in the world, is that we have Scott's testing. And we have, hopefully in the Keenan Law Firm and hopefully in some other lawyers, the willingness to go forward without a class action and hold the wrongdoers to account. By the way, I understand that there's the other company that technically owned the rail ties, but CSX owned the property. No fear. CSX is responsible. All right.
I want to add Jim Peterson, by the way, his daughter's okay, but she was in a car accident. He said that's why he's not on. But Rex, you're asking a lot of good questions, and given that we're not going to have the town hall for 2 to 3 weeks, I may come back down for 2 days because there is some more sampling that needs to be done. But we can set up a separate call, maybe with Karen, Jim, and other critical people. We've got a lot to talk about. Again, we're in the very early stages here.
Yeah, and I'm available anytime. I'll hop on a Zoom call with anybody anytime. So just let me know. And like I said, I'll talk on the phone. I'll do a Zoom, whatever you guys need. I'm just kind of like, I can't imagine what I would feel like if my little piece of paradise all of a sudden wasn't my little piece of paradise anymore.
Well, we're approaching an hour and a half, so I think I'm sure people would want to get to dinner and start their night. Feel free to reach out at any time, uh, and we will be following up.
Alrighty. Well water, Melanie's asked about well water. I will just let you know our experience on well water is when the ground is contaminated. Um, Usually it takes a lot longer for well water for that contamination to get down into the aquifer and the well water to test contaminated. Unless Scott tells me that your areas are different, or that your soil is different. I know in Roseland it's a little bit different.
Sand,
Um,
just so you know, when there's sand, I met with some people, some experts today. We may have an explanation why Roseland is seeing contamination before East Palestine and well water. Sand. If it's very
yeah,
sandy and you have wells, when it rains, it's that sand is gonna just accelerate things down into the aquifer.
correct. So that is the issue. So if it is sandy there, it will accelerate it. I don't know that it would already be there, but Scott can take a look at that when he comes down.
Okay,
All right.
everybody. Thank you very much. Any questions, reach out. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Thanks much.